Welcome into Snow The Goalie. We are live at Parx Casino. We are here at Chickie's and Pete's. And you know what, Ant? I feel like after the many weeks of the Olympics, we got to see the men's and the women's hockey teams win the gold. Do we start a USA chant? Do you think we get enough people in here to do a USA chant? You think so? I'm looking out to the people to see who's ready to go.
Yeah.
We have somebody standing on the bar now, ready to do a USA chant.
By the way, did you see that thing with the guy, at the bar before it was in? It was out your way, I want to say. Maybe Phoenixville, maybe one of those towns.
Okay.
The third period ends, and before they have the intermission before the 3-on-3 overtime in the men's game.
Okay.
And he was dressed up in a suit, like a brown jacket, shirt and tie, and he got up and stood on the bar, and he did from memory the speech from Miracle.
Oh.
And got the whole bar fired up. So it's so funny when you say you see someone standing on the bar. That was the first thing that I thought of.
This wasn't like an "Oh, Captain, my Captain" standing on the desk in the classroom kind of thing. No, all right. So
not quite.
Anyway, it's a great night to be out at Chickies and Pete's here at Parx Casino. We're in Bensalem. If you are in the general area, by all means, come on out, talk some puck. We have some Olympic stuff to talk about. Of course, the Flyers had 3 Olympians. Of course, yesterday we also got to hear for the first time from Matvei Michkov because Slava, the translator, is back. He is also back from Milan, so finally got to get a little bit of insight out of Matvei Michkov. Trade deadline is not that far away. I think we've already seen some players listed on the block and
next
such.
week.
And so it's getting close. And listen, if you thought that the hockey at the Olympics was entertaining, wait until you get hit over the head with some orange and black hockey. Am I right?
Tonight, back at it tonight. Of those of you listening after the fact, I apologize. We are recording this live on Wednesday, but back at it tonight against the Washington Capitals down in Washington.
And then, of course, we're back on Saturday. It's the first game back at Xfinity Mobile Arena.
They have another game in between.
Yeah.
They play the Rangers
I'm saying for our
tomorrow.
purposes, for what we care about. We're down at Xfinity Mobile Arena on Saturday. We're doing a show at Chickies and Pete's. Is that a 12 o'clock start?
12:30.
12:30 start.
12:30
for us.
For us, yes. At
Chickies and Pete's in South Philly.
Yeah.
Right down the road.
Prior to the game, and then, of course, the press row show.
2:30 start.
2:30.
For a 3 o'clock game.
Yeah. So a lot of us this
Back
week.
into the fire we go.
A lot of us this week, yes. So
I don't know where you want to start because, listen, when we talked last week, we were kind of hypothesizing a little bit. Can the U.S. make it to the final? Because at that point, they had just won in overtime, right, to advance. And so I guess the first question is, one, were you surprised at all it ended up being USA-Canada? Were you surprised in any way that this played out the way that we all kind of hoped it would, especially with Russia not being there? Felt like a U.S.-Canada final was sort of not like it was a foregone conclusion, but certainly if you were looking for the best matchup, it was going to be that. First, were you surprised at all that those two teams ended up getting through the way that they did?
No,
Finland,
I did.
Though. Finland.
Well, we talked about this. Like, if you go back and I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. I did pick the U.S. to win the gold medal, and I did say in both the last 2 episodes that we did this. One, Chickie is dangerous for Canada.
Yeah,
they should have won that game and didn't. And then I said last week, I said, Finland's not an easy out for Canada.
Yep.
Because of the way they play, right? So I think I had it pretty good. I'm not always right on these predictions type things, obviously, but I think I had that one down pretty good. Look, we all have eyes. The Canadians were the better team against the Americans. They seriously
for
were.
At least the second and third period.
Well, Connor Hellebuck's the difference.
Yeah,
it's the absolute difference in the championship game, the gold medal game. It was. That's what happens when you have a really good goalie who's on their game. You can steal one. And look, in a best of 7 series, maybe that doesn't happen, right? Maybe Canada wins that series, okay? But in a one game winner take all situation, the goalie can win it for you. And that was exactly what happened for the Americans. What an incredible performance by Hellebuck in that game. Absolutely incredible.
Well, and the neat thing for him is, he effectively exercised his demons as being a guy who a lot of people thought couldn't be a big game goalie. And not only was he a big game goalie, he played the best game probably of his life in the most impactful, most meaningful game of his life. He, without a shadow of a doubt, changed his entire legacy. The way that people talk about Hellebuck from this point on, I think, has fundamentally changed.
Well, yeah, because of that one game. Now, I mean, obviously, there's still going to be pressure when you go back to playing for the Winnipeg Jets to, hey, can you win a series? Like, can you steal a series? Can you help this team get beyond where they've ever gone before? It's one thing to have one great game. Nick Foles had a great game and won a Super Bowl.
He did. It happened to be the most important game of his life. Yeah,
right.
Correct.
And in that vein, you're right. Like, he'll always be remembered for that, and not necessarily for the fact that he was otherwise a middle of the road type quarterback, right? So yeah, in that vein, Connor Hellebuyck will always be remembered. But I think he's better than that. I think that he's a guy that ultimately, maybe he's not in the right spot. Maybe Winnipeg ultimately isn't that team to win. But maybe if Hellebuyck ends up somewhere else, he could be that guy, and that leads a team to a Stanley Cup. He certainly
can't envision a scenario where they would actively choose to move.
Look, he's certainly one of the best goalies in the NHL. Yep. The one thing that I do think that there's a small asterisk here for this Olympics because the Russians didn't play.
Correct.
And when you think about it, who are the best goalies in the NHL? There's a couple of Russians right at the top of that list, right? Towards the top of that list.
Yep.
And in a one game kind of situation that we just talked about, whether it's Sorokin or Shesterkin, either one of those guys could just as easily steal a game from a Canadian team or an American team and upset that apple cart. So you got to keep that in mind.
In some ways, that ended up being a good thing for some of the other squads, though. Like, there was a little bit more parity in this tournament, other than the U.S. and Canada. Although there were times that the U.S. and Canadian teams were both kind of taken to the limit by the opposition, right? And like, the U.S. were on the ropes a few times in this tournament.
Yeah,
I mean, they were. The Canadians, I think, largely looked more dominant. Finland game was certainly on the ropes.
Well, they were really on the ropes against Czechia.
Down 2 goals, right? And so.
Well, yeah, but Czechia had the lead with 3. Now, granted, they got away with a goal with the too many men on the ice, right?
Yep.
But the way Czechia played that entire game, they had Canada beat. They were playing a very physical style, in-your-face style. Yep. They took that lead with and in the final 5 minutes of the game, all of a sudden they decided to sit back.
Yep.
And it's like, why did you do that? Why did you take the foot off the gas at that point? If they kept playing the way that they had been playing, I think they win that game.
Correct.
As it turns out, they make that mistake. Canada's so good enough a team to come back and win the game and advance. So, Canada. The thing with Canada, as great a team as and look, that power play may be the best power play I've ever seen in a hockey game. When you think about who was on it and the people and the participants on it, everybody kept saying, and this is the one thing I kept going, I'm not with you, is when they would say this is the best team ever assembled. Because I didn't love their goaltending. Binnington was really good in the tournament, but it's not like a guy sit there and go, oh man. Like, they could.
I think that there are a lot of questions. I think that the questions around Binnington have kind of continued now.
Yeah, their defense was okay. Like, it's good. Like, I mean, comparatively to some of the other I go back to '87, the Canada Cup team from Canada.
Okay.
When you had Lemieux and Gretzky together on the same team, and Messier, and and I think Coffey was on that team. Like, you're talking about guaranteed best players of the history of the game all together on one team.
I think that when you look at, Crosby's not in his prime, but like when you have a team that has Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid at the same time, like it's going to all, it's ultimately going to go down as one of the top.
It's a fantastic team.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to besmirch them, but what I'm saying is I did not think that the conversation coming into the tournament about how it's the best team ever assembled, I was like, well, let's pump the brakes on that just a little bit. I'm not sure that it is. It's really good.
I think regardless.
But I'm not sure it's the best ever.
They were certainly among the best ones that we've seen in, I don't know, do we want to, certainly this century. If you want to go back into the 90s, I think they still are probably at or near the top of that list. You said 87. So.
I mean, there was more skill on this team.
For sure.
But
the speed is the thing that when you look at it, like they were talking during the game, right between the glass, just saying.
Bush was saying
Bush
he's ever seen played,
the fastest
right?
he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Now he did mention it was like 3 feet shorter the ice was.
Yeah.
But he's like, effectively that doesn't change that much, but that was the fastest version of hockey he'd ever seen.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Russ, and this is the one thing I will say. When it comes to putting a team together. It's one thing to put an all-star team together, right? And I do know that Canada had a couple of guys that you kind of looked at more of a, a grinder type role. I think that 87, that I'm sorry, not the 87, the 2010 team that won Crosby's golden goal.
Yeah.
When you had the Mike Richards types on that team and you had a Chris Pronger at the back end of that defense, and they played a little bit more of a nasty style. It wasn't all flash and skill. Like I will take that type of team every time in a high intensity game versus a team full of fast skaters.
Okay.
I just will.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe this team would win a couple times against them.
Yeah.
But I just look at it and say, I don't necessarily think that it was constructed in the best way possible. They had a lot more options of guys to choose from that play, that do the grunt work in a game, that can shut down another team.
Well, that's how the U.S. built their team.
Yes,
and
it worked.
It ultimately worked for them. However, I mean, you're looking at a play where Nathan McKinnon has a wide open net, and I said the other day he buries that 99,999 out of 100,000 because I don't even think saying 9 out of 10 times is remotely close enough. It's that minuscule of a chance that he doesn't make it. You have a play like that.
The great save by
Hellebuyck,
which was lucky,
but it was an incredible save.
Then you had the other one that was who was the defenseman in the crease, the American defenseman who got Charlie McAvoy. Charlie McAvoy. Who blocked that shot? It was
right there.
It hit him.
Yeah.
It was going in.
Yeah.
It hit him. He got into the right spot. So you get a little fortunate there. He makes a nice play.
It kind of felt like the U.S. team had something special that night.
Yes,
something going for them in the universe.
Yes,
that day
they did.
Right,
they absolutely did.
And it's also kind of wild too. You think about it, right? It was an 8 a.m. game, and this is just kind of like zooming out on the popularity of hockey. And I know that it's multi-platform and everything, but NBC said that across NBC, Peacock, and anywhere else that it was airing across their properties. It was
in the U.S.,
it was nearly 30 million.
27. I know it was 27 million.
Was the peak in the overtime.
Yeah,
think about that. So the game starts at 8. Overtime was going on until 10 something, I think,
yeah.
right?
Closer to 11.
And you had 27, 28 million people across linear TV, Peacock, everything else tuning into that game.
Yeah.
It is a perfect way to try, if you're trying, to build the game, right? And to build a viewership. Now, how much of that creates new fans that then follow it to the NHL when there's a layoff? I don't think it's going to be a ton.
No,
right?
We've had this discussion before, right?
Yeah.
And we had it last year with the Four Nations. Like we talked about, it's going to be the viewership is going to be so much better now because of that. Well, it wasn't.
Sure.
Right? It went back to pretty much the same as what it normally was. And we've had it in the past with the great Olympic gold medal games. The 2010, that one was with the Crosby goal. Like, I remember I was down in Clearwater, was down there for that, filling in, covering the Phillies. And we went to a bar to watch it, and the place was, when I mean shoulder to shoulder, with people watching that game. And it didn't translate after that. Like the ratings on Flyers, Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Finals were whatever, and it's two huge markets.
I do,
and it's like it doesn't really translate out.
What's going to be really interesting here, and we're not going to delve into this topic, right? Because it's not our thing. But the way that people treated post game as something of a controversy, right, in the locker room, and then everything falling up, and then last night, I do wonder. I think a good chunk of the people who were outraged probably weren't going to watch anyway. Probably weren't going to be fans anyway.
Right.
I wonder if the people on the other side of things now kind of double down, or if they're like, you know what, I am going to give hockey a shot now. And it will be interesting just to, like, you don't have a way, at least to my knowledge, right, when you're getting your TV ratings, you can't exactly ascertain necessarily which political party a household is, part of. But it would be interesting to see, like, what does that split look like pre-Olympics versus post-Olympics? I think ultimately you're right. The viewership is probably going to be in line.
We got a complaint. Apparently the YouTube chat is not working. And I don't know if that's something we can fix. The only people it looks like they're commenting through Facebook and X.
No, there's comments coming through on YouTube.
Oh, well, there's multiple people.
Like Nick Abe.
Yeah, multiple people are saying it's not working.
Many people.
Many people.
Who else said that the chat's not working?
There was 2 I saw.
Oh, I did. I see another one up there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
So I don't know what's going on.
I blame
guys.
intern.
I apologize.
I blame intern.
Yeah, intern Andrew ruined everything.
You know who I don't blame? I don't blame the fine folks at Chickies and Pete's because, of course, every Wednesday night we are at one of 17 locations in the greater Philadelphia area at Chickies and Pete's. Tonight we're at Chickies and Pete's Parx Casino in Bensalem. Saturday we are at Chickies and Pete's in South Philly, right down the road from the Xfinity Mobile Arena. You come on over. You hang out with us at 12:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, come grab lunch, hang out with us, and then go over and
talk
watch
some
the game.
puck. Then you go right down the road to Xfinity Mobile Arena. You come all the way up through the Section 121 doors. You go all the way up, and you come hang out with us for the Press Row Show. But every Wednesday night, you can come spend an hour of your life with us. What else do you have going on at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday? You got like a kids' activity? Bail on it. Come on out. Hang out with us at Chickies and Pete's. Come talk some puck.
By the way, I went with a new thing on the menu tonight.
Well, I was going to say, we should talk about that because obviously they have mussels in white, mussels in red. I always do the cold shrimp.
Yeah.
Bundy typically does the cold shrimp and a pizza. I did the grilled chicken sandwich. Last week was Ash Wednesday, crab cake, good Catholic boy. This week was the chicken sandwich. But you did something I've never seen you do before.
Yeah, I went with the tailgate burger today.
Explain to the fine
The
people
tailgate burger puts a crab cake on top of the hamburger, or on top of the burger. So it was really good. I'm like, you know what? I'll try that. I usually get the crab cake. I've had a burger here before. So I put the 2 together, and it was tasty. It's a tasty burger.
You're happy with it?
I was very happy with it.
Okay.
Maybe a repeat item.
Did you get your? No, it doesn't matter. Do you have any fries? You have some crab fries?
Well, we have some sitting over there that we were sharing. I had a few. You ate more than me, but
it's not a Lady in the Tramp situation though. When we get the crab fries, they even give us the 2 cheese cups.
Yes,
it's a shareable item.
Yeah,
you have a cheese
sure.
cup on each side.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. You want to share the same cheese cup? You can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. We don't share the same cheese cup, and that's okay. But you come on out to one of the 17 locations Chickies Pizza has in the greater Philadelphia area. You can order what we order. You can open up. It's an expansive menu. You can go open up the menu, go take a look, and enjoy whatever game you come out to see. Now, the fine folks who are here right now, listening to 2 jamokes talk on microphones, they may be here because they want to watch Pardon the Interruption. They may be here because they want to watch the ponies over there on that screen. I see NBA up there, but I'll tell you what.
Maybe they're here to watch the Flyers tonight.
I was going to say, that was where I was leading to. Maybe they are here because at 7 o'clock, the Flyers are back. And like I said, if the Flyers are back, that means it's time for the orange and black. And when the orange and black are back, well, you know what that means, yeah.
What's that mean?
Pain.
Yeah. Hey, before we get to the Flyers, we do have to do our payroll services player of the week because that's usually what we do at this time. It's brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. It's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Russ, obviously there were no Flyers games again. Last week we decided to give it to Quinn Hughes for the overtime game-winning goal in the quarterfinal by the USA. This week, I think, while it would be easy to say give it to Jack Hughes for the golden goal, I think you got to go Hellebuck. It was one of the.
Oh, I thought you were going to go back to a Flyer. I thought you were going to try to give it to a Flyer this week. No, okay.
They didn't play.
No, but I was saying,
Sanheim had an assist for Canada in the semifinal game. Does that count? Is that good enough?
Well, okay, go ahead. Give it the player of the week.
Hellebuck.
Okay.
How do you not give it to Hellebuck? That's one of the best goaltending performances in a big game that I've witnessed.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that if you remember back in the start of the Olympics, we did the player of the game or of the week, right?
Yeah.
And you decided to go with the hippie ideology of saying everybody who's a Flyer who makes the Olympics deserves.
They shared it that week.
To be the player of the week. And I said, that's nonsense. And I pointed out the fact that a guy like Travis Sanheim had to really outwork a ton of very talented defensemen. Vladar went from not even being on the radar to making the team. And I may or may not have thrown something out there about, Rasmus Ristolainen, like how difficult is it really to make the Finnish team relative to those other two? And I went and I watched Risto play. And I got to tell you, he played a pretty darn good Olympics.
Yes, he did.
And that's why, as the rumors begin to swirl about Rasmus Ristolainen getting dealt, I fully expect him to end up on IR, 48 hours from now.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I actually want to give a retroactive player of the week back to the first week. I am going to confidently put Rasmus Ristolainen in there. But, of course, Connor Hellebuck has to be.
Yeah, it is Connor Hellebuck. But I will tell you, the one thing that's interesting that you mentioned Ristolainen, I think that when we've heard in years past that people are interested in trading for him because they think that his brand of hockey will translate in the playoffs.
Playoff Risto. I'm going to make that a shirt. I hope, you know what, if he stays through the deadline, I'm going to make a playoff Risto shirt. It's about time. It's about time.
But I think you got to see in the Olympics why people think that. Right? I mean, it's a short it's a short tournament, but at the same time, those games matter, especially the knockout rounds and then the bronze medal game. I think you got to see why Rasmus Ristolainen excites people as a potential ad at the trade deadline.
I could envision a scenario, legitimately, it won't happen this year, but if the Flyers were to make the playoffs and you get the energy in that building really going, I could see Risto being a guy that everybody, like, all of a sudden, the book on him, the way that fans have felt about him and that contract and what was dealt away for him, I feel like it flips.
Yeah.
But it only flips if you get to experience that in the playoffs. And without it, it almost feels like one of those, that's a Chuck. It's a Chuck. We're going to get our playoff defenseman, and then you don't make the playoffs.
Then you don't make the playoffs.
You don't get to see it.
It's a classic Chuck Fletcher.
Yeah.
Anyways, as well as Risto played in the Olympics.
Don't forget, Chuck's also waiting for Matt Niskanen to.
Still waiting for him to call him back.
To call him back.
Yeah. Even as well as Risto played in the Olympics, Connor Hellebuck is our Payroll Service Solutions Player of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today, 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions caters to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY.
I've learned from somebody in, let's give the person a shout out. Sun33 over on X says that people are tweeting that YouTube chats are down across a ton of different channels, and that is true.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it on Twitter right now. Apparently it's been a thing all day. Come on, YouTube. What are we doing?
We have
but that's why we also stream to Facebook and to Twitter.
Right. So therefore, if guys,
a multi-channel.
Look, you can watch us on YouTube, and that's great. We love having you there on YouTube. But if you want to comment and you want to chime in, we ask that you just hop over to either Facebook or X to put your posts up.
Yeah.
And then we'll we can
and then go back to YouTube.
Yeah, and then you can go back to YouTube after that or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for tonight, you can go on the other platforms and comment. Thanks, Mike Butts, for switching over to Facebook.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
So it's not. And by the way, I just wanted to let Tony Louie know.
Yeah.
Intern Andrew is here. He's making pretend like this is happening because the intern's not here.
He's right there.
He's here.
He's here.
He's actually here.
You can't see him, but he's here.
Yeah.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. I wanted to actually keep going on Risto for a second.
Yeah, let's. If you want to do that first before Michkov, that's fine by me. Yeah.
Because I want to keep this idea going about the way that that certain guys have played well. Now, I will point out that I had Adam Kimmelman on my show today. You'll find it on YouTube or your podcast. But we talked about Vladar. Obviously, played himself onto the radar.
Yeah,
played himself onto that team. Sanheim, I think, has really established himself now with Canada. He absolutely establishes.
He had a really good tournament.
Who belongs there?
He had a
and
good
I think
tournament.
Longer term, when you look to 4 years from now, regardless of what happens in Philly, whether the team makes the playoffs or not, I think he's now done enough where if he's not a lock, he is certainly thought of in a higher regard than he even was before the Four Nations. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to him. Risto to me is the one that's the most interesting because trade deadline is coming up.
Yeah.
Before the Olympics, the conversation around Rasmus Ristolainen was, there may be teams interested in him. Yeah, there have been teams interested in him the last 2 years before the deadline. Yeah, he happens to always get hurt right before the trade deadline like he did the last 2 years. But could teams be interested? And it felt like the thought was he needs to show he can be healthy. Well, he went to the Olympics and he played a good tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are thoughts out there. There are some reports out there that teams are perhaps checking back in on one Rasmus Ristolainen, who only has a year left on his contract after this year. Anthony, was his performance at the playoffs so strong that he could theoretically fetch a good price, and maybe the Flyers consider in what is effectively a lost season to make a move?
I do think that he could fetch that. I think that the Flyers have a number that they want to get before they say that they would make the move at the deadline.
A first plus what?
I think it's maybe a first period. Like get a guaranteed first rounder, not a conditional first rounder, but a guaranteed first rounder. because I think right now you're probably looking at seconds are coming in like as offers now. It would not surprise me if the reports that are out there are kind of reports that try and drum up interest a little bit for Rasmus.
Are you saying that the media is being used by someone with ulterior motives? Is that what you're saying?
It's possible.
It wouldn't be the first.
Look, I mean, in those instances, right? Look, you have national guys who are always putting out, who's talking, here are the rumors, whatever. And that's in every sport. And we've had this conversation before. They're information traders. So, hey,
sometimes you do bidding on behalf of an agent. Sometimes it's on behalf of a front office.
Correct. Right. So, like, there's all that kind of game playing that takes place. But then, on a local level, you kind of look into it a little bit deeper and you're like, okay, yes, there's interest, but I'm not sure it's as high as they would like it right now.
You don't think it's 6, 7, 8 teams that are all kind of checking in right now?
I think
preparing their dowries for Rasmus Ristolainen.
So here's my favorite phrase at this time of year: kicking the tires. Right?
Okay.
Do I believe that there are at least 6 teams who have kicked the tires? Yes. And what does that mean? They've asked, is he available? And what kind of return are you looking for? Kind of thing. Those kinds of questions are probably being slung back and forth via text or email.
Yeah.
Do I think that there's like this ramping up of interest that, like, oh my God, we got to get him now before the deadline happens? No, I don't. I don't see that. And I think that maybe, if you're trying to get more teams interested, you would let one of the national guys or multiple national guys say, we're getting a lot of interest on this guy.
Sure.
Because then it gets other teams thinking. Right. And sometimes it's true. Sometimes you are getting that interest. And so that's why it's a game that's being played amongst, executives from different teams. It's like, how true is this? Is this something that they're just trying to get out there to get me in, to get me to bite a little bit more? Is it offer a little bit more? Is this something that's legitimate? Like, are there 6 teams that are interested? I just think that we're at a point where it's still, even though we are a week and a half from the deadline, or a little bit less, 9 days from the
next
deadline.
Friday.
Even though that's how long away it is, it's close. I still think you probably need another 5 days before you really start to get some legitimate offers.
What's going to be interesting too is because of this long layoff, front offices have had a lot of time to evaluate their teams. They've had a lot of time. The front offices have to talk to their coaching staff, to the owners, and to really kind of map out. I think you can pull yourself out of being so narrow focused and so tunnel visioned on the season. Maybe you're a little bit more objective, where you might have made an emotional decision pre-Olympics had it not happened, and you're looking at 2-3 weeks leading into the deadline. Maybe you're a prisoner of the moment. Now that they've had a time to maybe rationalize things a little bit, I wonder if it's going to affect the number of players that we see moved ahead of the deadline, or does that objectivity of it all of a sudden make it, I'm more resolute in the belief that I need to go get this player?
I think you'll still see some go this week. Like, I don't want to make it seem like nobody's going to trade anybody today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. Like, I think you might see a couple guys in the league get moved, but I really don't think it starts to ramp up until Monday.
Okay.
Like, Monday's when it'll really start. You'll start to see real stuff starting to happen. And look, Flyers, they had to have their people get together last week, or leading up to this coming back, and they had to have some real internal conversation. Like, what do we do? And I do think that they're willing to sell a couple guys, but not. I don't think you're looking at anything major. I think Ristolainen's probably the biggest name. I think
probably the most tradable asset you have in terms of like what you would hope to get back from a return standpoint.
Yeah, I think then your next one after that is Nick Seeler. I do wonder if they do both. You know what I'm saying? Like, would you move one and not the other? You know what I'm saying?
I almost feel like they would move Sealer if they can't move Risto, but I don't know if this front office would move both of those.
That's what I'm
guys.
saying. I'm not sure both get moved.
Do I think that they should entertain it?
So
I do.
Let me ask you. So let me ask you. What would you take for Nick Sealer to say yes, you would move on from him?
Does he have 1 year left?
Yeah, another year after this. Yeah,
probably like a third.
See, I think that's what they're going to get offered.
I think a third is like pretty fair value.
And I agree with you. I agree with you that it is, but because teams get a little silly at this time of year, and you look
think
back,
they can get a 2?
Well, if you look at trades that have been made at the deadline, similar defensemen have gone for more.
Okay.
And so I think that if they get offered a second-round pick, I think they will take it.
Okay.
I don't know that they will.
If
If it stays a 3, I think that becomes a conversation. Do you do it or do you not do it?
You know, if you're somebody who wants to see the Flyers pick higher in this draft or have a chance to pick higher, like get better odds of moving up, if they trade Ristolainen and they trade Sealer and they retain the salary, this is the first time that I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, retain all the salary, get the better pick back, because the money doesn't matter this offseason. The free agents are gone unless you're really looking to make a huge swing for a big salary player via trade, which I don't know how that's going to work. If you can get a first and a second in exchange for those two guys, 2 separate moves, not only does that lower your ceiling, it also lowers your floor, which is always my thing. You're then going to spend 20-something games to close out the year where you're going to get a better look at really a sink or swim opportunity for a guy like Emil Andre. Are you going to see an Oliver Bunt get a look when Ty Murchison is available? Are they going to?
Well, he's not this year.
That's right. He's out.
Hurt.
Yeah.
But
are they
Murchison,
are they going to take a look at some of the guys that are in the pipeline on 5-game samples, maybe?
So the interesting thing about Murchison, even though he's out for the year, is they look at Ty Murchison and say that's our next Nick Sealer.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
If Murchison were healthy and available, it probably would make a Sealer trade more likely.
Yes, I think that's the case.
Okay.
So anyway, and then the last name, and I don't think that there's a ton of value here at all, but I think they would consider it, is Garnet Hathaway.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can get anything for Garnet Hathaway, you do it.
Yeah. But because he's the kind of player.
He's a player that you want to have as a depth forward
on a playoff team.
On a playoff team. Sure.
For sure.
Yeah. He's had a bad year, but he stayed positive somehow in all of it. There was a quote that came out, I think last week. Was it Kurtz who got it? Where Hathaway was asked about whether or not the concussion last year might have had more of an impact on his play.
Yeah.
Including this year. And he essentially said, like, I hadn't really thought of it that much, but, there does seem to be a little bit of a correlation there. So from our perspective, obviously, like, we evaluate these players based on them on ice. Hopefully, if he is having like some kind of post-concussion thing, we obviously care that the human being is doing well. When you evaluate him as a player, it hasn't been a great year.
No.
Could he theoretically be a guy that is a super low risk and not high reward, but like a decent return player? Maybe. So if a playoff team wants to go out there, like what does Garnet Hathaway get you?
Probably something like that.
And that opens up another spot. Maybe that fixes, or it could lead to a bump getting a look where you're going to have to fix this glut of wings. Forster already being out has kind of opened up a potential spot. Denver Barkey jumped right in, took advantage. If you move a Hathaway, I wonder if a Delorier maybe even becomes available at some point.
I don't think anybody wants Delorier. If they do, God bless.
You don't think that there's if there's a team, so okay, play this one out. Hathaway, obviously better penalty killer, better overall player than Delorier. But if you think a team is going to potentially move a 5th for Hathaway, you don't think that there's a team in this league that fancies themselves as being like maybe a bubble playoff team that would say, yeah, you know what, I'm fine with the idea of going and getting a guy on a short run here at the end of the year. No?
Unless you really feel the need to bring in a locker room type who's going to not play but just kind of be, a professional in the locker room and show everybody how, that you're willing to make those kind of sacrifices, that you're not even going to play, but you're going to go out there and work your tail off at every practice and, be the last guy off the ice kind of thing and have the right, just go about it the right way. Maybe you see value in that for a team making the playoffs for the first time. not to say that this is a thing, but like, I look at a team like Utah, right?
Mhm.
Who's kind of a youngish team, up and coming, and probably going to be in the playoffs. Like, you sit there and go, could they use a player like that?
Yeah.
Do they have
Maybe.
that? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's maybe.
Well,
But that's a long shot.
Two of the other guys that have kind of been rumored to maybe be out there, but probably more of an off-season move, a draft day move than now. Brink, Tippett.
Yeah.
Obviously, like in the case of both of those guys, Brink is super low value in terms of contract. He would be an interesting one. I feel like they have to have their socks blown off to make that move now.
Yeah, I don't think that happens at the deadline.
The Tippett one is more complicated because of the contract.
Yeah, and both would have to be a hockey trade, right? You're not trading for future value on those guys. You're not trading for a guy or a prospect, or you're not trading one of those guys for a pick. Like,
maybe a conditional pick attached to Tippett, along with whatever the hockey trade is. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe, but
not saying like a second.
Here's the thing: like, Owen Tippett, and we, you and I both think that he's the way he's been used here has been an odd fit.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, and if we're being fair, the way he's played in the last couple of months is kind of how you need him to play. And so maybe they want to give him a longer run now, playing this style, playing this way, as more of a power forward.
If he could be a power forward, you don't move him,
and less of a speed guy. Well, he's a great skater, but I think in the past that they've wanted him to be that skill forward, and I think that he's a lot of speed but how many times has he not been able to stop himself, or he loses the puck, or shoots the puck?
He's like the kid in Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got all the speed and can't slam on the brakes.
Can't slam on the brakes, right?
Like go through the boards
right?
at the end.
So, but if you play in a more power forward role where you don't have to do that all the time, maybe you can be productive. And so I think that there's an opportunity to potentially have him do that before you move him. So I don't think Tippett's in the conversation at all for the deadline. And they just kind of want to see how the rest of the season plays out for him. The point is that Forster will be back. Obviously, not this year, but he'll be back. Martone is coming.
Yep.
Both are wingers. You need to open up 2 spots in your top 9.
Yeah.
Right? And probably...
And you've got Michkov and Konechny, so there's 2 of...
There's 2 of the 6.
That's 4. I'm just saying 4 wings total.
So you have 2 more spots.
I don't know if you know this or not, but Michkov can play both wings.
Right.
So 6. So 4 of your 6.
Right. And so there's 2 more spots. They obviously love Barkey.
Yep.
Right. What he's bringing
so that's
to the
probably
table.
5.
You're probably, Alex Bump is close. Like, you got to think that he's going to be part of this conversation at some point as well. What does that do for the rest of your wingers? That's so like it's the Brink, the Tippett. Zegras is probably as better as a winger than as a center. He's playing center right now, but
I could see Brink. If Bump were to make the team, I could see Brink moving down to 4th line. But that wouldn't be an ideal fit. But at least on a temporary thing, I could see it.
Yeah.
Tippett can't play 4th line.
No.
But based on the guys that you're talking about too, you also don't want to move. Barkey's had such a good season for the role that he's been in. You don't want to put him down on the 4th line either. So it's a weird kind of conundrum they found themselves in here. But they have to. And by the way, the other guy that you didn't mention there, which I find is very interesting, your omission there, is Trevor Zegras.
Well, I just said him at the end.
I didn't hear you say him.
Yeah, so he's playing center right now.
He's playing center now.
But he ultimately is better as a winger.
If he ends up being a center, it makes this whole glut better. If he's a wing, God help this team.
Well, no. It's fine if he's a wing. It's just that you then have to move other players. Like, you just have to make tough decisions, and it's an okay thing to have. It's an okay problem to have. Like, it's an okay problem to have. To have too many of something that people would want.
Sure.
It's not going to be an easy 1-for-1. Like, it's not that. Like, okay, trade this guy and get your need at center. That's not necessarily the easy way to go about it, but it is a good problem to have. You can get things back. There is value in the players that you have.
Let me ask you a crazy question, and I don't mean this at all when I ask it, but I'm going to ask it just for the heck of it. Zegras has had a really good year. He stayed healthy, which he hasn't done in recent memory.
Yeah.
If you have made a determination as an organization, he is a wing and not a center, and his stock is as high as it's going to be, do they entertain a move of Zegras either now or at the end of the season when the RFA rights come up, right? Whoever acquires him would have exclusive negotiating rights there. Do they entertain that idea in their pursuit of a center that they ultimately would need? Or
I don't know if he gets it for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets it for you. And one other thing to keep in mind, and Zegras has had a very good year. I don't want to take anything away from him. But the last month before the Olympic break, he wasn't very good. Now, guys have bad months, right? That happens in sports. So I don't want to put too much stock in it. But I think you need, coming out of the break, I think you need to see the Trevor Zegras of the first 41 games and not the Trevor Zegras of the last 15, 17 games or whatever, however many they've played, right? So, that's important.
His last 3 games, though, he did have a point per game.
Yeah, but he wasn't. It was just a little, it was it's starting to show again a little bit, but it wasn't quite where it needed to be. He had a stretch in January after the Ducks game.
Yeah,
really, which is when that was his one of his best games of the season, if not his best game of the season. After that
he went
stretch,
scoreless in 4 out of 6, 5 out of 7.
It looked bad. After they moved him to center and try and jumpstart it, didn't really work. And it's like you got to try and they got to try and get him back to where he was at the beginning of the season. And maybe this break will be exactly what he needed. Who knows? But yeah. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more from Zegras, even though he's had a good season to this point.
Now, you mentioned he maybe needed the break. Obviously, the guy that needed the break more than anyone else, if for no other reason than to just get out of Dodge for a little bit, Matvei Michkov. Now, we talked last week about the fact he went down to the Dominican Republic with his girlfriend, had a nice time, posted about it on Instagram. Some people took exception to it. I thought that was ridiculous. He came back. He was one of the first guys out there, yada, yada, yada. He finally got to speak to the media. We were pretty vociferous in our belief and in our statements last week that the Flyers had kind of failed the player to this point by not having any form of a translator around him for over a month while Slava was over at the Olympics. He finally spoke to the media. And you wrote a whole thing up over on Patterson. You had all the quotes and all that lovely stuff.
Yeah.
And there were some highlights from it. There were some things that I think people wanted to get clarity on, right? One of those things was the relationship with Rick Tocchet. And he said it's a player-coach relationship. He wasn't effusive in his praise. He didn't say he hates the guy's guts. He said it's a player-coach relationship.
Yeah. But he was saying that about, just so you know, just to clarify, it was about the entire. She brought it for you because
I didn't see that.
Yeah, she's our waitress is on top of it. She's great here.
I was like over here for the last sip of the cup.
Yeah, that's good. But he was. The question was about the relationship with the entire coaching staff.
Okay,
it was Tocchet and the entire coaching staff.
Okay,
and he said, and so his response was about the group, and saying that it was a typical player relationship with the coaching staff, which again, like you said, it's neither here nor there. But it wasn't like I'm not happy here. I don't like my coach and we fight all the time. Like it wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
But it also wasn't like, oh my God, I love the guy. Go run through a brick wall for him.
Yeah. Which when he talked about Torts in the offseason and he was asked about Torts getting moved on, he opened up a lot about the relationship there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think it's.
But that's also a little bit different because it's retrospective,
and you don't have to worry about the relationship any longer.
Sure.
Like there's a very, very, very slim to none chance that you will ever play for that guy again.
Correct.
Right. Whereas you're here for the long term. Rick Tocchet just signed a 5-year contract. You got to play for this guy for a while, so you're a little bit more measured in what you're saying. But
anyway, he goes down to the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And like I said, some people went nuts. Normal, rational people were like, okay, that's fine. So he was asked about his workout regimen. He said he was doing 2 trainings a day down there. The first one was in the weight room, and the second one was like a stamina kind of thing, which, I mean, that kind of tracks.
Yeah.
I don't think it also – I don't know. I really don't think that it matters. Like, I don't think that it matters. I know that you didn't like the optics of it, like posting to Instagram, giving everything. I think it's totally fine. If you want to go dip your tootsie toes in the sand and have the sun kiss you on the face, in the Caribbean, I think it's totally fine as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do. Now,
I agree with you on that.
The one downside, obviously, there's no rink, So if you were looking for him to work on the conditioning on ice, that was not in play. But the rest of it,
Yeah, but that was only while he was. It's not like he
Correct.
was down there for the entire Olympic break. That was
Yes.
only for the half week or whatever it was that he was down in the Dominican.
yeah,
So there was no skating,
Mhm.
but you can also simulate. There are what they call dry land drills that you can do to simulate skating motions and,
Sure.
and skating exercises. So
he also noted
totally
that this break versus the summer break. He said the summer break was too long, right?
yeah,
The idea that he had multiple months, and he even admitted that like he wasn't actively.
he said he didn't do anything for 4 months.
Yeah. So I actually think that kind of candor is a good thing. I know that you can be frustrated if you want to, if you're the organization, if you're a fan. Wow, this guy who we've kind of built the hopes of the people in this region are kind of built on this guy. He just went and like did nothing for 4 months. You can be frustrated with it. At least he admits it. At least there wasn't.
100%.
He has not gone back. And this is why I keep coming back to, I would love to know about this ankle injury that I don't think was ever real, right? That felt like cover by the organization back in camp. He could have very easily been like, yeah, I hurt my ankle in the beginning of the offseason, so I didn't really get to do much for 4 months because I was hurt. He has not gone back to that well. He wasn't even the one who initially brought the injury up. I just think that's interesting. Here he is taking responsibility for it. I think it's a good sign, potentially. But the real big thing was what? What was the thing that had people the most worked up?
Well, he was asked if he preferred what position he prefers, and he said he prefers to play on the right wing. But that, if he's going to be played on the left, he's got to adjust and learn how to play on the left. Fair. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that's
Correct.
how it works, And
the phrase that he used, and this is where you had like the translation thing is maybe a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
That he can create more moments on the right wing. That's where I want translator.
Yeah.
With the nuance.
But
right?
I don't disagree with him in that.
The idea of moments, right? Being moments in the game where he can take over and he can have impactful plays. I agree with him. He does look more dangerous when he's on that right side. However, I do think it's a good thing that he didn't say, well, I wanted to play on the right side. I think this is a mistake. He did say, I need to learn how to play.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I think that kind of gets lost in translation. When they're in the offensive zone, there is no like restriction that you have to stick to the left side of the ice. There's not. Like it's like yes, he may line up on a face off on the left side just because that's where your stick is. It's more whatever. But ultimately, once you have the puck in the offensive zone, if you skate around to the right side, you could go wherever you want. It's a little bit more freelance there in the offensive zone. So the whole notion that just because he's playing left wing that he can't make stuff happen on the right side of the ice is a fallacy. He absolutely can. The whole notion of playing left wing versus right wing is purely a defensive decision by the coaching staff. Purely a defensive decision because coaches prefer that you're on the side of the ice where your stick is, because if it's a right-hand shot defenseman, it's a left-hand shot winger that's on that guy. So it's stick on stick. You always want stick on stick, right? It's an easier out of the zone to flip the puck off the board to get a better bounce at a better angle out to center ice and make a little area play. It's all about defense. It's the same thing through the neutral zone. So that whole thing has nothing to do with his creativity and nothing to do with his offensive ability to create those moments. He certainly still can do that. That's where he's got to learn, how do I get to that part of the ice and still have my defensive responsibility on the other side? And he'll figure that out. He'll get there. There's nothing wrong with that.
This is where I get frustrated, though, in that I can understand from a defensive perspective, if that's really the reason that he's playing on the left is because it's more of a defensive-minded thing. Like Tocchet believes that that's better for them holistically as a group of guys on the ice. I'm not saying they need to make an exception to the rule. But what I would point out is that at his age, given the success that he did have last year, not playing for a laissez-faire coach. Like Torts was far from a perfect coach, right?
Yeah.
But he excelled in a lot of ways under Torts. And I would argue, and this might seem crazy, Torts has had more success in this league than Tocchet has. I would say that objectively, Torts is probably a better coach than Tocchet. I'm not saying that means that he gets everything right. he figured out a way to maximize Michkov on that right wing. If Michkov, and Kimmelman and I talked about this morning, if Michkov were 28, 29, 30, had established himself in the league, and then a coach comes in at that point and says, "Hey, we're gonna try this. We're gonna try this switch," and then we always know that we can come back to this other thing. Then I think I would have been okay with it.
I think it's just the opposite. I think it's just the opposite. I think you try it when they're younger to see if it works. Look, guys switch positions all the time, and they have a preference of one over another, and it doesn't always last. I think by the end of this year, he'll probably have equal time on both positions, left side and right side. He played some right side too, and he's been back on the right side a little bit. And,
okay,
maybe a little bit more on the left, but really, when you crunch the productivity numbers, right, they're pretty much the same on both. It is so insignificantly different from one to the other. It's like 0.56 versus 0.53 points per game on either side, right? So ultimately, that's what it is. But look, if it doesn't work out, they can always switch them back. Why isn't everybody freaking out about Trevor Zegras being a center versus a wing?
They are.
Not like this. Not like this.
I think that there's been a lot of consternation for this organization.
But he's not a center. He may have been when he was younger, but he's not. And this is the second team that has identified that he's better as a winger than he is as a center. Okay? It's just the nature of it. Okay? It doesn't mean he can't play center from time to time. He obviously can. He's played the position before, but he's better as a winger, right? Ask Travis Sanheim which side of the ice he prefers to play defense on, right? Yeah. I'm sure he prefers to play on the left, but the Flyers need him sometimes to play on the right. Now that he's with Ristolainen, he's back on the left. Yeah. But when he was with Cam York, he was on the right. He prefers to play on the left. But sometimes you have to switch sides. And it's just the way it is with the way that the roster's constructed and the team's constructed. Right now, that's the best thing for him.
I seem to remember there being a conversation about a year and a half ago, where we talked to Jonesy, Hilferty, Briere, and we talked about the idea of Michkov being able to play either side. Could Konechny play either side? They seemed to feel at the time Konechny was kind of more established on
the right side,
and not being as much of
as flexible
to go back and forth.
Correct,
right?
Yeah, well, it's funny you brought that up because it's in the story that I wrote today. I actually went back and found that video clip and I put it in the story. I embedded it into the story. Yeah, because it was talked about, and this was at a time when, long before Rick Tocchet, John Tortorella was the coach. They were talking about what Michkov can do. And Bundy actually asked. By the way, Bundy's not here. We didn't even say this. He's not here tonight because he's got to do pregame radio.
He does.
That's why he's on the pregame show for the game tonight.
Yeah. We're actually going head to head with him.
Yeah, I know. We're going head to head with Bundy right now.
Bundy.
But Bundy actually asked Danny the question at the time: is there any possibility that Michkov can play center? And Danny said, we really haven't thought it that way. We think it's more from the wing that he needs to be.
It was Demidov who actually threw out the idea of Michkov playing center.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yes,
he said that he thought that there was a possibility
down
the line.
Yeah, for sure. And, Danny kind of just like, we haven't really thought about that. We think he's more, at the wing. And he said the way the game's being played today, wingers are the ones that are the playmakers more so than centers. It used to be centers were the playmakers. Right now, wingers are more playmakers. And then it was Jonesy who first chimed in and said, and he's comfortable playing either side. Now, whether just because you say that you prefer one over the other doesn't mean that you won't play the other, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing that I think we're all getting caught up in the semantic of this. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening here. I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him. He's going to be a very good player. Let it be. Like, it's not the end of the world. They're not stunting his development. They're not hurting him as a player. They're doing what's right for the team. It's not an individual game. It's a team game. It's very simple. It's a very simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is just where I think that there's an inherent frustration in that, like, what's good for the team and what's good for the player. Sometimes when you're in the midst of a rebuild, you have to figure out the path to making sure that that player isn't prioritized over everyone, but certainly is prioritized over those who will not be on this team next year, will not be on this team in 3 years, will not theoretically be on this team when you're ready to flip a switch. If you limit a player specifically because you're of this mindset, we cannot have a different rule for Matvei Michkov than we do for a Travis Konechny, or that we do for a Bobby Brink, or we do for an Owen Tippett. You might be right, and from a meritocracy perspective, you would be correct. But for the development of the player and for figuring out how to maximize that guy in order to figure out what you will need to add around him in order for this team to hopefully get out of this weird purgatory state they've been in for so long, I think that at some point you do have to consider doing a little bit more of what's better for that player's development and helping him get to the next level. You don't want to go into this final 20-something games and kind of keep pounding this idea he needs to play on the left, and maybe he will. Or do you give him a bit of a confidence boost, let him go back to the right wing, let him find success, sort of like he did after Four Nations last year, where he's like a point-per-game guy, go into the offseason riding a high, knows that he screwed up last offseason, have him go momentum into the offseason, work his ass off, and then come back next year and be ready to hit it 2 steps above, 3 steps above where he was this year. That's what I would. I mean, I kind of think they have to consider.
It's possible. It's possible that they do that. I don't see it. I don't see it right now. Look, and I know that there's people in the chat who are like, well, they never did this with Patrick Kane. Matvei Michkov's not Patrick Kane. They never did this with Pavel Bure. He's not Pavel Bure. You know, they never did this with Kirill Kaprizov. He's not Kirill Kaprizov. He's not those players. We're trying to treat
not
him
with
like
that attitude. He's not.
We're trying to treat him like he's this once in a generation superstar.
It's because he's the first guy
I
that
get
they've
it.
had in a decade.
I get it.
That has
and he's
any kind of real upside.
And he's going to be a very good player, but he's not that. So when you have that player, yeah, you let them play their spot.
All right, let me devil's advocate this here as we have 90 seconds before we have to sign off.
Yeah.
Whenever I poo-poo the idea of Jetlachenko as a prospect, because I don't think he's a good one, you say to me, he is young. And relative to the guys that were in his draft class, he's young. And it's so rare that you get a 19-year-old, even though there are. It's so rare you get 19-year-olds who play at the NHL level, yada, yada, yada. You're sitting here going, Michkov cannot be one of these other guys. He's 21 years old. He's in his second season of playing in North America. How do you write off a guy?
I'm not writing him off.
How do you write off what his ceiling could theoretically be when he's being played potentially out of position this year?
If he grows into that player, that's huge. It's great. That's fantastic. But you still have to make sure that he knows how to play the game in North America the right way. Like that has to come first. If he develops into that player after that, fantastic. That's awesome.
I am going to disagree with this in the comments, though. Sun33 says he was projected from the draft as a generational player. He wasn't.
No.
He was thought to be, had it not been for geopolitical reasons, he could have been the number 2 pick.
Correct. It doesn't necessarily mean he was the generational.
Bedard was the guy that everybody said was the generational guy. We have to be fair there. He still has the highest upside of anybody on the team, but we will see. Now, we will also see all of you on Saturday. If you are going to go down to the game, Flyers Bruins right on Saturday.
Yes.
That's a 3:00 start. We'll do press row show at 2:30, but at 12:30 on Saturday, down in Chickies and Pete's in South Philly, we will be doing Snow the Goalie Radio. And you can call in. We'll have a lot of fun on Saturday. So a big thank you to everybody who watched over on YouTube, Facebook, and X, everybody who listens after the fact in the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And anything else you want to say to the people before we sign off?
Thanks to Chris Armour. Thanks to intern Andrew.
And thank you to the fine folks at Chickies and Pete's. Don't forget, 17 locations in the greater Philadelphia area. Come on out. No better place to watch a game. No better place to watch the return of the Philadelphia Flyers tonight than at Chickies and Pete's. For Ant, I'm Russ. We'll talk to all of you Saturday here on Snow the Goalie. Have a great night, everybody.